show you, this is original prairie ground. This has never been put to the plow in history, ever. This right here is part of the old Santa Fe Trail. And I came down to check on my cactuses and my prairie asparagus. I wanted to show you guys prairie asparagus. Just found one here. I wish I would have found it, I don't know, maybe about 4 days ago. But I'll show you what I consider prairie asparagus. This is a nice one here. You can see. And it looks why I call it prairie asparagus. If you look at it, that looks like, or very similar to, asparagus. And you can eat this stuff. This stuff is excellent in flavor. I'm actually going to either harvest this one. I'm going to look around, see if I can find some more first. But yeah, I can see one right over there too. But yeah, prairie asparagus from the yucca plant. Excellent little plant. You can make cordage out of this stuff. You can take these and just get a single fiber coming off this needle here. You can stitch your clothes with it. You can stitch up wounds with it. When these stalks dry up, they're excellent for bow drill or hand drill. I've never tried them on a friction board. I may have to do that, but you can make soap out of the roots of this plant. All these leaves down here, the way they're designed, the water's funneled to the center, and so all these down here are kept really dry back up underneath here. So even when it's wet, you can get dry material for starting a fire from this. It's a awesome plant if you're ever out in the prairie. Another reason I came out too is to check on my prickly pears. This is a prickly pear cactus. You can see right, let me get right there. That is a prickly pear bloom starting. You can see there's quite a few down on that one. Those are very tasty. To me, they're kind of a cross between a strawberry and a pear, maybe with a hint of plum or something in it. They're amazing. You can make jams and all sorts of stuff out of them, or just eat them raw. That's what I normally do. They're full of a lot of seeds. I wouldn't recommend just plopping the whole thing in your mouth after you take all the little spiny needles off. You could possibly break your teeth. Very similar to if you were going to chew on rose nips, I guess, because those are some pretty hard little suckers too. Hey guys, I'm back. So I found a nice fresh one, and I wanted to kind of describe the flavor to you. So it's like a sweet asparagus. So you know that kind of that sweet flavor you get when you eat the core on the inside of a carrot? That's what it reminds me of, but with a stronger asparagus type flavor to it, just sweet. They're pretty good. Same texture as an asparagus. Good, very good. Prairie asparagus. Hey guys, so I wanted to show you what this stuff looks like when it's good for fire making materials. So if you look here, that is this after it's already grown up, put on the flowers, bloomed out, dropped its seeds. So these are excellent. These are nice for starting fires with. Very dry. These stalks here, they're very fibrous, and these make one of the best bow drill spindles that you can get. Definitely in my area, but I've compared these spindles to a lot of different woods, and this has got to be my favorite for a bow drill spindle. Now when these are blooming, you can eat these as well. They don't taste, they're more bland when you eat these pods, but before they turn to pods, when they're still flowers, they're actually not too bad when they're flowers. They're more nutritious when they're as a flower than if you were to eat the pods. But they're not bad. I mean, none of this plant tastes as good as the asparagus though. I love this stuff. That's another couple uses of the yucca plant for you guys. You can see tons of them. Oh look, and we got a couple trees. They're dead, but still got a couple trees. Hey guys, it's starting to get windy, so I'm gonna finish this up. So on these prickly pears, you can eat these patties here. And what you want to do is you want to cut them down here at the base, and then you can cook them two ways. So first, you can take and slice down these sides here and get these outside needles, scrape them off. Or you can try to burn these off. Now, the burning way does work, but it's not 100%. So if you try to burn them off, you may still check them before you start taking a bite, because there's lots of fine little red hairs, little needle hairs on these. And you get those in your mouth, you're gonna have a fun day. But you can eat these patties here. They taste like a slimy celery or something similar to that. They're not too bad. They're really good if you dice them up into little cubes and fry them in garlic butter or something. They're excellent. And you can take these and add some of this prairie asparagus, slice it up and fry it up too. Excellent little meal. Maybe add some rabbit or something to it. And then black locust trees here, and you can see they're blooming out. So these are probably, at least 2 years old. Maybe 3 or 4 years old. Probably more like 3 or 4 years old. Because right here, this would be about that's probably a 2-year-old here. You got a bunch of yearlings coming up out here. But black locust makes excellent bows. It is about, in my opinion, it's the second best bow wood on the planet, right next to osage, or a lot of people know it as hedge apple, or hedge deer apple. And they're those trees that put on those big green, look like oranges, extremely large oranges. The black locust, the leaves, the seed pods, the flowers, the inner bark, it's all poisonous. It'd probably kill you if you ate way too much of it in small quantities. Give you stomach cramps and diarrhea. And even the thorns on the younger black locust trees, they have these thorns here. As this tree will get older, they'll get bigger. Let's see if this one's got any. No, just got some small ones, but they'll get about 1 inch to 2 inches or so long. And it just protects the black locust tree while it's young. And then as the tree gets older, it doesn't need the thorns, so that it'll lose those thorns. You can see a couple bigger black locust trees in the back. That's some mulberry trees there. But black locust, it makes excellent fence posts. Excellent building material. It's a hardwood. It's a very fast growing hardwood. So, you know, you can take all the bark off of it, and 200 years from now, you'll still have fence posts in the ground, or you'll still have a cabin built, or whatever you use it for. It'll still be there. It doesn't rot. The only thing you got to worry about in it is woodworms and termites. Well, if you treat it and such, you never have to worry about that. Excellent wood, excellent building material. Nowadays, you can find it almost everywhere in the US. Hey guys, so here's a bunch of ryegrass, is what we call it, or rye. And this is a relative to the wheat plant, or the barley plant. And you can make flour, beer, about everything you can do with wheat and barley, you can do with ryegrass. And there's a whole bunch of it all through here. You can see the heads here. Hey guys, this is pokeweed. Now, pokeweed is pretty poisonous in every stage of its life. This stuff, it can grow, you know, taller than me. I'm 6'2", so, but it'll put on these blackish type berries. Do not eat them. Make you sicker than dog crap. Now, there is something called poke salad, and it's a staple in the South. So when pokeweed is just coming out of the ground, what they'll do, what they'll do is they'll collect those leaves and they will flush them repeatedly and boil them and change the water repeatedly until they're sure that they've got most of the poison out. And then they'll eat it. It's supposed to be pretty good. Personally, I wouldn't mess with it unless you know how to cook it or have been shown how to cook it, because it can make you pretty sick, and if you eat a little too much of it, it can kill you. I remember when I was young, my grandma used to always tell us not to eat the berries, the tasty berries. Sometimes they'll have like a whitish color on the berries, depending on what stage you find them at. They look delicious, but don't put them in your mouth. Hey guys, so I was talking to you about pokeweed. Here's some old pokeweed. You can kind of get an idea of how tall these things can get. But up here on the tops, this is where they'll put off the delicious looking berries that you never want to put in your mouth. And this is all, you can see pokeweed all through here, back behind me there, over there, goes everywhere in here. Hey guys, so this is sage. This here is actually be cudweed, sagewort, I think, if I'm remembering right. But it's basically just prairie sage is what it is. But it's always got kind of a silvery white hair on the tops. This stuff can, I guess it could probably grow around 25, 38 inches tall or so. But it's basically just prairie sage, you know, like white sage and such. But decent little seasoning. Doesn't taste too bad. Hey guys, so these are mulberry trees. Now, I love mulberries. I think they taste amazing. See if I can get this out in the light. See some little buds coming on there. Some leaves. There's a couple different types of mulberry, but these have been growing here at least a couple hundred years. But the berries mulberry puts off, they are very tasty. The wood is excellent to smoke with. Has a wonderful taste. It tastes very similar to the white ash trees that are growing way back in through all this stuff. But it's a great wood to smoke meat or whatever you're trying to smoke with it. This is a young mulberry here. It's old enough to put the berries on though. See it there? About a month. These will be very tasty. And some big mulberries. Alright guys, here is hemlock. Hemlock was used as a poison in ancient Greece and some other ancient cultures. I'm sure in Rome as well. Rome adopted most of the Greek culture. But if you look down here on the stalks there, I'm gonna get my finger in there. Right there, you see that dark color and the spots going up? That's a good sign that this is hemlock. It looks very similar to cow parsley, which grows right in through here as well. But this stuff here is hemlock. Here's some taller ones there. In certain places in the world, I know hemlock can grow 7 foot or more tall. I'm 6'2", and that one there's taller than me. So, but you can really see that dark color on these here. It's actually kind of like a purpley color. Extremely poisonous. I wouldn't even recommend touching this stuff just because you get the oils on your fingers if you rub your mouth or something, you know. Small doses, it could make you pretty sick and always kill you. There's some more of it. There's some more growing back over through here. It blooms with a white flower, and I will come back here in a second once I find one that has a flower bloom. Hey guys, so I call this horseshoe fungus. I used to not know what it was, and Mr. Thomas Ritter told me what it was. I don't remember the correct name, but the horseshoe fungus was the name I liked. So when you find this stuff on a dead tree, like this one here, this stuff is most likely dead, and it's a little moist still. But you can take, and this will hold an ember when this is dry. So you can use this to transport your fire. You can take your knife and drill into this, and you'll make a nice fine powder that you can use to hold an ember or to transfer your fire from point A to point B as well. And I only did this one time, but I got it to work. This makes a halfway decent hearth board for a bow drill or hand drill, especially if you can find, you know, a big nice flat one. So that's some horseshoe fungus for you. When you find it on living trees, it's most generally alive. But if you can find it off a piece of dead tree or something, it's a pretty good fire starting material. I'm not sure if you can eat it or make any type of medicine or such from it. I need to research that a little more. But it is excellent for fire material. Burns about about the same speed as a cow patty would. Hey guys, so this is thistle. There's tons of varieties of thistle, and every variety is edible, and it's nutritious as well, and it tastes pretty good. Thistle grows spines on it. This variety of thistle here does not grow where I am native from. That variety is very thorny. But thistle will most generally put on a purple, light pinkish colored flower. And the way you harvest thistle, make sure you got some stiff gloves because it hurts, the little spines on it. But you'll want to harvest the most tender ones that you can find. You'll want to peel all the spines off and then peel that fibrous layer off that is underneath those spines and get to that tender heart of the plant that's in the middle of the stalks and such. And you can pickle it, I think, but I know the way I've done it is just kind of chopped it up and ate it raw, or just ate it as, you know, a long stalk piece. You can cook it, fry it and such. It's pretty good. It's very common edible in a lot of countries. I know in the UK they've got like 14 or 16 or so different varieties of thistle, and they even have some lookalikes to the thistle it's a relative, a cousin to it, and you can eat those as well. So I'm sure over here you can eat thistle and all the lookalikes to thistle. So it's some central Kansas thistle for you. Now thistle also makes some pretty decent cordage. It can be sort of brittle, but in a short-term or emergency situation, that fibrous outer layer, you can make cordage from it, and it's some pretty decently strong stuff. Thistle's one of those that sometimes, depending on what variety you have, you can't necessarily twist the fibers into cordage, so it would be one that you would want to do a type of braiding or something to make some cordage from it. There's a younger thistle there. Hey guys, so this is prickly lettuce. Now, neat bit of history, this is actually the ancestor to a lot of the garden lettuces that we grow and eat today. Now, you can eat the younger leaves. I mean, you could eat the older leaves, they're just going to be very bitter. The younger leaves are still bitter as well. You can eat it raw, you can cook it. It's, you know, it kind of has a lettuce flavor to it. But what I do know about the times I've ate it, it's very similar to eating lettuce, but prickly. So you can see here, little spines on the back, and the leaves are a little bit prickly on the edges. So if you can boil it longer or cook them longer to where they become mushy, it's similar to eating canned spinach, which I hate, but that's about the best way to eat them unless you can deal with the prickliness. I generally scrape as many of the spines off as I can. You can see it down here on the stalks too. But yep, prickly lettuce. There's a few different varieties of it, but there's a smaller one right here. Hey guys, so here's some prickly lettuce. I think it's almost the exact same plant that was growing back at Central Kansas. I'm back out in western Kansas today, but there's a young one there. Bunch of horseweed around it. There's some more over there. Whole bunch through here. Hey guys, so this is balloon flower. It's a ornamental plant. So you can eat, actually, the younger leaves up top. These bigger base leaves, they can be somewhat toxic. I have never ate this plant because it's one of those that can be toxic. But yeah, I do know you can eat the younger leaves up here. They're not supposed to be toxic. They put on some yellowish, if I remember right, the ones in here, they put on kind of like a yellowish type bud. These ones here, they'll grow about 2-3 foot tall. Hey guys, so you see that right here? So this is from last year. Now these will normally get quite a bit bigger, most generally. But what these are, I've always called them wild horse nettle. You can't really do much with horse nettle, but these oh, here's another, some bigger ones over here. But they can get the size of small tomatoes, you know, about yay big around. And there's not much you can do with it, but one thing the Native Americans used to do is they would, say you had a toothache, you put that in your mouth and put it where that toothache is and kind of chew on it, and it will numb the pain. There's some more of it on the ground. It grows, about 3 foot tall. It normally doesn't start growing yet, or if it is, it's going to be very small. I'd have to look pretty hard to find some, but hey guys, so this stuff here, let me get out of your sun. This plant here that's got these 5 leaves on it, this is Virginia creeper. Now it these ones for sure, they put these berries on and they are highly toxic. Bad juju. So I wouldn't recommend eating the berries at all. You can see some up in the tree up there, climbing those. Virginia creeper. Even if I remember right, the sap on the stems can even be, irritate the skin on some people. It doesn't bother me any, but hey guys, there's a pond. But this right here, this is wild rose. You can eat rose nips. They taste like a sour, I don't know, maybe a sour apple or something, kind of in that range. These long shoots, if you cut them and dry them, they're very straight and they make excellent arrows. As well as you can eat the flowers. I'm sure there's some other uses for the rose plant, but I'm curious if you can make cordage out of these. Hey guys, so This is cleavers. And this stuff's not bad. I've tried it. This one here, I wouldn't eat the shoots. This is a little old. But the young ones, these here, these are edible. But this will put on a little fruit. You can see the little blooms right there. And those are decent. I mean, they're pretty tasty. But that's cleavers. And it's got like a cat tongue feeling to it when it's older. You can see how it's kind of grabbing my finger. Hey guys, check it out. So this here, this is wild spinach. I was hoping I'd find this growing here again this year. It's always grown right down here. These here, these are about 200-year-old fence posts, black locust fence posts that my ancestors, they used to keep goats in here. This was one of the old pens right here. There's another fence post right over there. But wild spinach. Yummy. And of course, what's a plant video without showing dandelion? As you know, all parts of the dandelion plant are edible. Eaten raw, it has a slightly bitter taste, similar to prickly lettuce. The roots, you can eat the roots, and they are a little bit sweet. It would remind me of kind of like a woody carrot taste. You can see there's some more dandelion over there. Neat fact about dandelions, they're actually not native to the US. They were brought over here by the Europeans. They were a staple in the garden. Oh, you can also dry the roots, grind them up, and use it as a coffee substitute. It contains small amounts of caffeine in it, and so, you know, shit hit the fan, some of you pop drinkers or heavy coffee drinkers that may run out of this stuff, you can get a substitute to wean yourself off of the caffeine, because if you drink enough caffeine, you are addicted to it, I guess, technically. But you can substitute the roots for that. Hey guys, so here's some geranium. You can see as it gets older, the leaves start getting that common geranium look. I think this is probably geranium Will 40. I don't think there's any uses for it other than it being sort of ornamental. There we go. Smoke break tree. Kids, it's not cool to smoke. Tobacco is bad. Say no. But the view's good. See all this standing water through here? So a neat fact about this ground, bedrock is only about 30 foot down, and groundwater is only about 6 on average. So a lot of these lower parts of this in the wetter years become very marshy. I mean, it's a good 2-3 inches deep right here. Been a pretty wet year. Here we go. It's like a small canine. Baby coyote, maybe. Check it out, guys. This would be a good log to rip into and find some grubs to eat. And that's a good sign that they're there right now. Get some snails. It could even be cockroaches. I've cut a lot of trees down here before and found cockroach nests in them, which cockroaches are one of the most protein nutritious insects on the planet. There's a lot of holes. Should have brought a axe with me. Check it out, guys. I found a feather for my hat. Hey guys, so I'm pretty sure, because I've seen this patch bloom before and it's the right looking flowers, but I'm pretty sure this is lesser periwinkle. It's also known as the flower of death. So I don't think I need to tell you if it's edible or not. Hey guys, so I found a big patch, and I know where a few other ones are, but this is a really useful plant. It has medicinal purposes, recreational purposes, as well as you can make cordage from it. So it's got many names too, but for the purpose of this video, we'll just go with hemp. And so here, right here, some there, see some back over in there, over there. I saw some back over here earlier. There's another big patch of it that grows over that way. There's a whole bunch of it right through there. It's pretty young, but this stuff that grows here, it'll get about 2-3 foot tall. But this being a wet year, I'm not sure how tall it'll get. But it's everywhere. Pretty neat plant that grows in a lot of places in the US. I don't know the correct name for it, but the two names I know for it are Gloria. Sorry guys, it's not Gloria, it's Sophia. And what we call it out here is wild mustard. So it's actually a cousin to the mustard plant. So the seeds on this plant have tons of medicinal purposes. You can grind them up and add them to water to make a certain type of drink. The natives used to do this a lot. They'd make a drink out of the seeds, and it's got a lot of beneficiary factors to it. You know, it can help treat fevers and coughs and bronchitis, sore throats, even help with dysentery and some of that other type of stomach issues that you can get. So you can eat the young leaves and the young shoots raw. They're pretty bitter. You know, here let me see. There's a young leaf there. They're pretty bitter. Kind of like eating a dandelion in a sense. I mean, it's not too bad, not where you're just going, ugh. I mean, I could eat quite a bit of them, but they're a little better if you cook them. You can add them to salads. So you can also grind this plant up into a poultice and treat, like burns and bruises and cuts or rashes and such that you get on your skin. It's a type of pain reliever. Say you got a toothache, and you could use it the same way that you would, that poultice, you could use it the same way that you would use white horse nettle, or wild horse nettle is what I've always called it, to relieve the toothache. Let me think. There's so many uses of this plant. The juice, once you grind it up into a poultice, you can use that juice to treat things such as, asthma and such. But yeah, here, I'll show it to you. So this is wild mustard, or Gloria. Yeah, still not Gloria, Sophia. You can see these here are going to grow into seed pods and be full of seeds, very similar to mustard. These seeds, you can grind them up and add them to flour. That's something the natives used to do quite a bit of, is they would grind these up and add these into maize flour and give it a little bit different taste. You can use the seeds to thicken a soup or a stew, or anything that you would use mustard seeds for, you can substitute these seeds for. The seeds are actually pretty rich in protein, from what I remember. Like almost 30 or 40% protein. It's a pretty useful plant that grows pretty much everywhere. A lot of people don't know a lot of the beneficial uses of it because it has so many qualities and uses that you can use it for. It's actually considered a herb plant. But here where I live, it can grow, it's going to get taller than this. It'll probably get another foot taller, if not more. It's pretty wet this year. But that's some wild mustard for you guys. Hey guys, so here's some knotweed. Some more of it growing over there. These can grow out to about 25-30 inches or so, about how big I've seen them. This is a cousin, I think, to Chinese knotweed. There's not much you can do with it, but it does have a couple uses, or at least one use that I know of. So the leaves and the roots are edible, but what the natives would do was they would make this into a tea and use that tea to help soothe and treat coughs or sore throats. Hey guys, so here's a plant that's somewhat useful. So if you've got diarrhea or dysentery, you can take the young leaves of this plant and cook them. You want to cook them, but you don't want to eat too much of this plant because in high quantities it can be somewhat toxic. The seeds, I know, have been used for thousands of years in treating skin infections. I'm pretty sure that I remember reading that you could use it to help treat a urinary tract infection as well. But this plant's called cypress, or summer cypress. Let me find some better. Here you go. So these young leaves up here is what you would want to cook. And this also will put off a fruit. And the fruit can be used the exact same way as the young leaves here. Hey guys, so I just found a pretty cool plant. So this plant, everything from the roots to the flowers can be used. You can grind it up into salves and such and rub it on wounds or you know, skin infections and things like that, as well as making it into a tea and digesting it, and it will help with digestive issues, you know, things like diarrhea and stomach cramps and some of that type of stuff. So this also puts on a fruit, and this plant has many different names. The proper name I think is chickashaw, I think, but around here we just call it sand plum or sandhill plum. And so if you look here, this is all along this ditch here, this is all sandhill plum. And let me go to one of these new older ones here, and you can see the little plums coming on. They have a very tart or kind of soury taste. If you've ever ate them before, you know the taste I'm talking about. It's the closest thing I could describe it to would be similar to choke cherries, I guess. But the natives have been using these for years. The plums make excellent jams, or if you cook them, they taste a lot better. The older the plums get, the better they taste, or I guess the more ripe they get, the better they taste, the sweeter they taste. But you know, when you're making a jam or such, if you add sugar to it, they're excellent. But that's the sandhill plum for you, or sand plum. Hey guys, so I was watching that and I realized I forgot to mention something on the sand plums. So sand plums contain 5, maybe 6 times more vitamin A than broccoli. Now, in the wild, vitamin A is very hard to come across. So sandhill plums are an excellent source of vitamin A. Here's another pretty useful plant. A lot of people know about this plant, just not so much some of the uses, and I'm not even going to cover all the uses of it because there's quite a few. So it's sunflowers. And so if you look here, here's some common sunflowers coming up. Now in the Americas, if I remember right, there's like 50, 60, or 70 different varieties of sunflowers. And you can get all different kinds of colors. So the neat thing about sunflowers, so the sunflowers that we all know today, we owe to the natives for creating those for us. Now, the common and wild sunflowers, the seeds are much different than what everybody is used to. So those seeds you can still use to cook with. You can grind them up, use them as coffee substitutes. You can make flours from them, add them to soups. The flowers, you can make a tea from the flower, and that can help with respiratory issues, or I know in the past it was used to help treat malaria. Now you can make teas from the leaves, and those teas are going to help more of like help with fevers and some of that type of stuff. Certain varieties, not all of them, but certain varieties you can, the roots are edible, you can eat the roots. There's quite a few different uses for it. I know the natives used to make dyes from the seeds. You can make salves from the leaves and use those to help treat burns or wounds, just to help them heal faster and keep them from getting infected. So the common sunflower, it's a pretty good plant. You can see there's some wild mustard growing there too, which is a pretty good plant as well. Got some smaller sunflowers. The smaller sunflower shoots, the baby sunflower shoots, these are excellent. They remind me of kind of like eating dandelions, I guess. Here's some big horseweed. Guys, check it out. So this is an awesome plant. So the natives, there's a giant version of this plant and there's the common version. So the natives actually had another version that they had cultivated, and pound per pound, and it doesn't matter whether it's the common or the giant, but pound per pound, this plant will put off the same amount of oil as soybeans. And that's one of the biggest reasons the Native Americans cultivated it. So this plant's known as ragweed. And here's some common ragweed for you. Right here. So ragweed is very astringent. And so what that means is if you've got a bee sting or a wasp sting, or some snake bites or a cut, it will help heal those. It will help dry the wound up, help close the wound up. Hey guys, I didn't realize I pushed the unrecord button. So back to the ragweed. I talked about it being astringent, and you can use it on bee stings and cuts and such. Now also, it is one of the best bacteria killing plants on the planet. Now, not your normal bacteria. Now, this would be bacteria that can live in environments where there's not a lot of oxygen. So, bacteria in your guts. So things that would cause diarrhea and dysentery and such. Ragweed is an excellent killer of those when ingested in smaller quantities. Now, the seeds, I had mentioned the seeds per pound produce the same amount of oil as soybeans. So why this is important. So if you're out in the bush and you're eating just wild game, one thing about wild game is it is extremely lean in fat. Now in our diets today, we don't have to worry about getting fat in our diet. But you get out there where fat is not very common, you actually need fat to help digest. So if you're out there just eating a bunch of rabbits and such, really lean meat, you can actually bring on protein poisoning from lack of having fat to help digest that meat that you're eating. So even just eating ragweed seeds raw can introduce the correct amount of fat into your diet that you need to help digest your foods. And that is one of the biggest and main reasons that the natives grew ragweed. And actually the ragweed plant that the Native Americans had grown was, like 5 or 6 times bigger than your giant and common ragweeds we have today. So it's an excellent plant, and it grows almost everywhere in North America. Hey guys, so here is a smaller common ragweed. There's another one there, a couple smaller ones there, over there. Hey guys, so I'm just driving along dirt roads, as you can see, looking for plants and such, but I found some sweet clover just now. I've heard it called yellow clover or yellow sweet before, but you can see here's the blooms up here. Here's one that's actually blooming out right there. There you go. So you can eat this, but you want to eat these leaves, the young leaves and such, but you want to eat this before it goes to bloom. Once it goes to bloom, they don't taste very good. Also, you need to check this plant for mold. When it starts getting older, it can get mold on it, and it can make you very sick if you eat it when it's moldy. Now, there's one cool thing about this plant when it goes to mold. If you can find it when it's mold. This isn't moldy. None of this is. It's a little too dry in my area for mold. However, if you can find this when it's got mold on it, you can actually, from the mold that this plant gets, you can actually create penicillin from it. Which a lot of you probably know, that's where we get penicillin, is from mold. You know, you can get penicillin from molding up bread or molding up oranges, but this plant here, sweet clover, it's the correct type of mold that you can create penicillin from it. But don't eat this plant if it's moldy. Make you really sick. But this plant, it's got some, I think it's got vitamin A and vitamin C. I mean, it's not a bad plant. I'm not a big fan of the flavor of it, I guess. I mean, it's okay. A little sweet, I guess, but that's sweet clover or yellow sweet clover. I think there is another version that puts on some white blooms, which would be white sweet clover. Hey guys, so I just found some pigweed here. Now pigweed, the leaves alternate. Pigweed looks very similar to common sorrel or smartweed. Now pigweed, you would want to eat the young leaves, and you can eat these raw, or you can cook them, and you'd cook them similar to, I guess, cooking spinach. So you can take the dried leaves or fresh leaves and make a tea from the leaves, and the tea is supposedly pretty nutritious as well. The seeds, so after these go to bloom and they get the seeds put on, they're pretty small, but they're real easy to collect. You just grab them like this and pull my hand up like this, and you get a whole handful of them. So the seeds are even more nutritious than the leaves. And the cool thing, one thing the natives used to do, or the European pioneers that came over, is they would collect the seeds and grind them up and use them as a cereal substitute. So they're pretty nutritious as a good morning meal. But this is pigweed. So I've shown you guys some horseweed in some of those videos, and I hadn't talked about it yet. So I'm going to talk to you guys about some horseweed. And you can see some horseweed growing here. There's some there. There's a younger one there, younger one there. It's also known as fleabane, I've heard it called, or mare's tail. I think mare's tails. But so these young shoots here are edible, as well as the young leaves on the top. Now, it's better if you were to cook or boil these if you're going to eat them. The natives, I know they used to grind up or pulverize these tops and these young shoots and use them to help season foods, similar to using like an onion or garlic onion or something. Now the leaves can be used to make a tea to help with diarrhea and such. And then the roots down in the bottom, the natives used to make a tea from the roots to help with menstrual cramps or other types of menstrual issues. So it's not a bad plant. You can also dry the young leaves up here, or these young shoots, and use it as a seasoning to help season stews or soups or some of that kind of stuff. So this is horseweed or mare's tail, fleabane. Fleabane, the reason it's called fleabane, it's actually a halfway decent flea repellent. So, if you were to collect some of these and stick them in your animal beds, it would keep the fleas out. Hey guys, so here's some more horseweed. Healthier looking horseweed. There's a couple more right there. Some more back over in here. Some younger ones. These younger ones here, those are the ones you would want to eat. You could eat the shoots on, or these young leaves up here on the top. Hey guys, I'm stuck behind a tractor, but I'd forgot something on horseweed that I failed to mention. This is something the natives used to use it for, and that was after the stalks of the horseweed have dried, after it's died, they're very straight, and they work as an excellent hand drill spindle for getting a fire going. Now, from what I remember reading, it's too weak to be used in a bow drill, but the natives used it for a hand drill, and it's supposed to be really good for doing it. So that's another use for horseweed, which I'm going to actually have to try this year because I'm curious. So